I tell you, sleepy cat, man. Sleepy cat, man.
HELLCAT. So if you don't know, I have the Mopar OEM lowering springs, and I think that is the reason why I'm not able to cut in the 1/360 foots, because anytime you have a lower spring than the factory one, it's typically a stiffer spring rate, which means it's not as soft, which means I can't transfer the weight and put the weight on the back tire. That's just my speculation, because that's the only thing I can think that's different, besides if the tracks are prepped that much better on the East Coast and some of the tracks on the West Coast. So we're gonna find out, but we're gonna switch out the springs now. This is not that fun. In the rear, you've got to remove the I think it's 3 or 4 control arms and trailing arms on each side, and then you got to remove the shocks to enable the control arms to droop enough to get the springs out. The front are struts technically, because it's a shock and a spring in one. So we've got to take those out and then get some spring compressors. Oh man, it's such a pain in the ass. But I'm swapping out with Jeff, so it's a mod that's not really costing me money. We're just swapping springs. And now you may be saying, I thought you were gonna do coilovers. Well, I wanted to do coilovers, but no one really has still that good of data to make it worth it to spend the $2 grand. Now, obviously, 2 of the 8-second HELLCATs have them, but they also have a lot more done to their cars as well. And yeah, they were cutting 1/260 foots, and the one guy I was talking to that has the coilover setup that I wanted, he's now switching, saying that the coilover setup wasn't even that great. So I'm just gonna switch to stock springs for now, because I'll be happy if I can cut 1/360 foots. Obviously, I need to be in like the 1/2s, but a 1/360 foot, you know, that's moving. So I'll be happy with a 1/360 foot, and then I'll know it was the springs, and then we can go from there. I mean, winter has not even started yet. It's barely November 1st today, which if you aren't watching World Cup finals, it starts today. I think testing starts today. That shit's gonna be awesome. I always love watching that. It's always a good time. But anyways, so this is kind of the first mod, I guess you could say, but I'm still gonna do adjustable suspension. I just wanna swap the springs out to see if that's truly the reason why I can't cut 1/360 foots. So, and Kevin's thinking about doing a track rental here in a couple weeks, so I'll actually be able to test it out, but don't know for sure if we're going to that or not. So, we are gonna get these springs swapped out. So another cool thing is I'll be able to weigh these versus the Mopar lowering springs and see if there was actually any weight savings between the springs. So here's another problem with fixing up these modern Mopars, is that they have adaptive suspension. So you have all your suspension options electronically, which means they have a PCM just for the suspension. And what happens is when the computers, because they all work together, when the computer realizes that those shocks are unhooked because you have coilovers or something, the computer flashes the stupid button or the stupid light all the time. So they have a fix for it. It's $500. I forgot which company makes it, but it's a $500 plug-in module that makes your car think that the shocks are actually in there, but you have coilovers. Like, 500 bucks, really? So we'll just go the cheap route for now. Also, if you don't know, I have listed my Bogarts for sale. They've got pretty decent amount of tread left on the tires. I'm gonna sell them with the tires. But these are HHP direct fit Bogarts, 15 by 9.5, single outer beadlock, billet center caps, open-ended lug nuts, obviously fully polished, and they're gonna come with a set of ET Street Pro radials, 275/60. Like I said, they've got a pretty decent amount left. I think I've got like 10 to 15 passes on them, so if anyone's interested, let me know. Now here's something funny. Literally the other day I was like, man, how does everyone rip these axle boots? Like, I've never had a problem with mine. Lo and behold, you can see all the grease sprayed everywhere. So the boot has ripped somewhere. Just need to kind of find the cause of it, I guess. These boots rip really easily though, like everyone is doing it.
Frank, get in the car.
Everybody's doing it.
Now.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see grease sprayed everywhere. That's good. Could have died, no big deal. So the good thing is, the axle boots themselves, I have seen people get fixed under warranty because our suspension is completely stock, so therefore nothing we did altered that. So maybe we'll get lucky and we can get it replaced under warranty. If not, they're pretty expensive. So I'll update you guys on that. So what I've decided is I'm gonna get the boot fixed first on the axle before we swap the springs. So I've been wanting to do this for a little bit. Since it's winter and I want to start driving the car a little more, I'm actually gonna put the stock exhaust back on. So it's a little bit quieter, but oh shit, I'm dying. But this is still straight pipe, so I mean it's still really loud. The exhaust little open and closed valves, those aren't even plugged in anymore. But I mean it's still straight piped, but it won't be so obnoxiously loud inside when I'm just driving around town. So I'm gonna throw that back on, and then we're gonna figure out what we're gonna do about this axle boot. Alright, so Dave's little homemade turn downs are finally off. I had to bend them a little bit to get them off. They're pretty stuck on there. They stayed on pretty well. So next year, if I plan on doing the same thing, I'm gonna have someone actually weld some true catless mid pipes with an actual turn down on there, not these ghetto ass exhaust clamps. But they did what they needed to do, and it helped me save almost 50 pounds by just dropping the exhaust. So now I'm gonna get this big beast back in there. Alright, so she's under there. I use these two VP cans that kind of hold up the back while I got the front on. So now I gotta just tighten the front down and get these brackets hung that have the bushings on, and the exhaust is back on. So guys, this is why anytime you're under your car or working on your car, it's a good time just to run over everything. Obviously with winter here or coming, we're obviously double checking everything. So I also found one of the bolts on my diff brace was coming loose, so not a big deal. If you remember my install video on that, I put lines, and that's what had happened, is I could see one line was off from the bolt from the actual brace. So not a big deal, we just tightened that up. But good thing we jacked the car up today because we did find that the axle boot was leaking. We're gonna see if we can get that covered under warranty. But I'm gonna tighten this bolt down on the rear diff brace, and then I'm gonna start the car up because I haven't heard what it sounds like in a long time with the full exhaust back on. But it would be really nice to drive around town. Like, the turn downs were cool. It saved almost 50 pounds. But man, it was obnoxious driving that thing around town. Like, it sounded cool under wide open throttle or on videos when people would send it to me, but like driving it every day, it was so obnoxious. So we're gonna hear what it sounds like in just a second. Alright, and then one last thing actually before we start it up is we're gonna take our little screen off of here and put the actual filter back on. It's still pretty freaking loud. Still pretty loud. So it's still pretty loud, it's just not obnoxious. Like, it was really obnoxious before. So I'm gonna take the car out today to work, But we're gonna see about that axle boot this week. I'll keep you guys updated. And then we gotta get the lowering springs off and put the stock springs back on. But now the neighbors can't be mad at my exhaust anymore. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you always comment, like, subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Snapchat at Bambi39. And Cupcake, we'll see you on the next one.